Eat, sleep, bet, repeat. That's how we get down on the opening line at EliteSportsBetting.com. I'll be your host, Benny Ricciardi, and we're here Monday, as we always are, talking a little NBA basketball action. Got my guys with me today, Golfman Paulie, Real Frank Frank, two of the best we got over here at EliteSportsBetting.com. Paulie, what's going on with you this morning?
Nothing much, Benny. Ready for another week of busy basketball action here.
Yeah, you know what? I actually like this. Normally, Frank is always up real early, so he's usually the first one that answers when I send you to the link for the show. And today, you actually beat him online today. So now you are up in the top left corner and Frank's out in the bottom box. So we're starting with Paulie here today. I think this might be the first time ever.
There we go.
So anyway, we'll go to the guy who seems to be behind the eight ball today a little bit tired. He didn't get the invite as fast as he normally does. What's going on here, Frank?
Okay, calm down. It just didn't come through my email for some reason. It was a slow refresh or something. I was up at 6 o'clock in the gym this morning, so
Okay, Rob.
We're here. We're good. No, I see. Other than Rob, besides Rob, I actually work out regularly. I don't pull my back, brush my teeth. So,
Oh, yeah.
Frank gets more done before 8 o'clock in the morning than I do in my entire day, actually. So that's, I'm just busting his balls a little bit here.
Yeah.
But either way, we got a pretty decent slate here tonight. We got 7 games to talk about. So let's kind of get into it and, see if we can find some value here. So the first game on board is the Houston Rockets, New York Knicks. Game opened with an 8.5 total. 8.5 spread with Houston favored. Total at 230. I'm actually seeing the spread going up. I'm seeing it at double digits in some spots right now already this morning. Total's kind of hanging around that 229, 230 mark. Anything you're looking at in this one, Paulie?
No, I'm probably going to stay away from this game with Houston and New York. The only thing I'd look for is if New York gets out to a hot start and you get Houston live under 7 or 6 on the live spread, I'd probably be a buyer in that situation.
All right. Frank, anything you're saying?
I didn't bet anything coming in here, but I'm seeing this get bet up a little bit, 230.5 now. So I'm liking the under just a tad. I got it 229.5. It is 229.5 in some spots. It's 231 in some spots. But if I could get 230.5, I would play the under in this game. It looks like Smith is out.
Yeah, Dennis Smith you ruled out already. Yeah.
I have been playing some Houston unders on and off as of late, but. Not that Dennis Smith is any good, but he's one of those guys that, he's a big over guy. So, he's incredibly efficient.
But pushes the pace. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like the under a little bit here as I see it get bet up now. But just a few minutes ago, I didn't have play on it. So we might get some better value here. I'm going to wait out and see where it settles to see if I can get a better number than what I'm seeing now. But I definitely like the under just a little bit here.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Paul, go ahead, Paul.
It's blowing up on the screen now. It's going. I actually see up to 231.5 in some places now. So.
All right, so we'll see how high this thing can climb, and if it gets up big enough, maybe we can get a little bit of action on the under there. And if the Knicks hop out to a big lead, we might be able to get some in-game action on the Rockets. So that's the way these guys are looking at that one. Interesting game I wanted to talk to you guys about right now. We got Portland and Orlando. Orlando a 7-point favorite with a 223.5 total. Now, the Orlando Magic lately, and Frank, I wanted to ask you about this in particular, so we'll start with you. The Orlando Magic the last week or so has been playing some incredibly high-scoring games, and you're also starting to see their pace pick up. This was a team that, was last in the league for pace and was also – I don't know if they were last, but they were towards the bottom of the league for scoring total and also points allowed. Now, is this part of – they played like Atlanta, Minnesota, so these are some teams that – are teams that are playing a lot faster right now too. So how much of this is their opponents and how much of this is just the fact that they're playing faster as well? Or I figure it's probably a combination of both, but how do you handle something like that moving forward?
Yeah, so I haven't found any, definitive evidence that if a team plays, say, 3 fast teams in a row from an offensive standpoint, that their offensive pace will naturally pick up. I mean, maybe you can make the case, in certain situations, maybe, but it's not necessarily something that is written down. I think that's a little bit of a kind of a misleading thought process where people are like, oh, well, this I mean, their possessions will go up because they're playing a faster team, but from a seconds per possession standpoint, you're not going to see a team, in a general sense that makes big changes just because they're playing the Hawks who are going really fast right now. So that their offense kind of stands out. Now, in ways that could change if you're playing the Hawks and they're playing really fast and they're turning it over a lot or they're missing a lot of shots. Obviously, after makes, teams will go slower than normal. Now, so it's like it's a weird combination.
Right. I mean,
of like,
if you're getting a lot of turnovers, you're getting steals and breakout layups, you're going to have a faster time per possession, right?
In long rebounds, whatever, right? Like more runouts just in general. So you'll see teams off misses and things like that. So you could say, you could look at things like, oh, well, the Magic might be playing faster because they're playing really efficient defense right now, or they're getting a lot of steals or whatever it might be. So you kind of have to look at that more on the Magic side than looking at the opponent side of things. To me, it looks like they're really just picking way up offensively, and the Hawks did this over the last couple of weeks where they've gone really fast. Orlando, like you said, one of the slower teams in the NBA. They're 26th on the season, including their more recent pickup. And if you look at the last 4 games, they're 13th. So they're not going crazy fast, but they're definitely picking way up, compared to what they were. But the biggest jump here that I'm seeing is that over the last few games, they were 26 as well in offensive efficiency. They've jumped up to 7. So they've picked the pace way up. But even more so, the offensive efficiency has drastically increased. Now, I wouldn't expect them to have some like crazy ability to score more now. It's not like they got better or that they're getting like crazy healthy or anything like that. But from a pace perspective, I think you could see this stick, especially for teams at the end of the year that don't have anything to play for, and now they're kind of seeing what works and what doesn't work. Not that they've had much to play for all year, but it certainly seems like the pace is pushing them forward, and I would expect the efficiency to slow back down. But they're certainly picking up some pace here.
I was going to ask that question right there. Normally, when you see a team pick up the pace, it's usually at the detriment of their efficiency. So when you see both of those things happening at once, you got to think that over the long term, it's kind of going to revert to the mean a little.
Unless, like you said, to me, it's starting to look like maybe the defense is improving, and perhaps then the efficiency on offense would go up as well because you're getting more runouts and more fast breaks and things like that. And it could just be shit luck where the other team turned the ball over a bunch over the last week or two, right? So, but the pace for me is definitely picked up from what I can tell.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see that in the fantasy numbers, which is why I was kind of asking your opinion on it here. As far as today's game against Portland here, Portland obviously playing without Damian Lillard. That's a big deal for them. What are we looking at here, Portland, Orlando? I think I got a 223 total here, 223.5 total here. And the game opened with the Magic favored by 7. So anything you're looking at on the sports betting side there?
So it got bet up a lot. It looks like 219.5. Now I see 222 or 223. I agree with that movement. I didn't get in on it. It must have been early this morning or overnight. But I've got it at 222 right now. So it looks like, I'm somewhere between the numbers. So I'm not going to play here. I think I have it at 7 as well. So Orlando -7. So that's about it.
Paulie, how about you? You agreeing with these numbers where they're at now?
Yeah, with the over-under movement, yeah, I agree with that. In terms of the side there, I have a small edge on Portland, so I played it at +7. I thought the number should be closer to about 4.5 or 5 there. 7 points is just a lot of the road. Yes, I know Portland's without Lillard, but you're getting a little bit of, I think, additional tax on that because everyone knows that Lillard is not playing, and that there's probably going to be some money coming in on Orlando here, especially playing at home against Portland. And I think 7 is just a little too much because it's one of those numbers, again, where you can kind of also be down 15 points with 4 or 5 minutes left and backdoor the game by 6 and stuff like that. So there's multiple ways to win the game when you're getting 7 points.
Yeah, it does seem to be a pretty big number. Again, Orlando hadn't been a high-scoring team, hadn't really been beating people by big margins except for a couple blowouts here and there. So 7 points seems like a lot. I think I'm kind of on board with that for you. If I had
because we're kind of looking at the number and you're looking, okay, it's at Orlando. So that kind of means if you're talking 2.5 points for home court advantage, that'd be saying that Orlando would be a 2-point favorite in Portland.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the case there either. Even without Lillard, I don't know if that would be the case.
So,
All right, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm kind of on that Portland side as well. Let's move on to another game that's a little bit more boring here. We got the Utah Jazz against the Cleveland Cavs. Utah on the road, about an 8.5 to 9 point favorite, depending on where you're looking. Looking at like a 219, 220 total. Do have a couple injury issues on the Cleveland side of this game. Rookie Darius Garland is not going to be playing for them. Also looks like Tristan Thompson's going to be out. And then on the flip side of that, Ante Zizic looks like he's going to be back. So he may eat up a few of those Tristan Thompson's minutes with him expected back in the fold. Paulie, we'll start with you on this one. 219 total, Cleveland, Utah, 8.5 point, 9 point spread for Utah. Anything you're looking at?
I'm spot on in this game in terms of like live betting opportunities. The Cavs have had a lot of games where they've actually grabbed the lead. This happened again, I believe, on Saturday, where they got up over the Pacers, and you had an opportunity to get the Pacers, I think, at like even money going in around the fourth quarter because they were down like 4 or 5 to win the game against Cleveland. And if that happens, it's almost an auto bet every time. The way Cleveland's been playing, it's like they're not even trying to win a game. So if Utah gets down and it gets around pick them on a money line, I'll most likely be firing in here.
Yeah. Now, have you done any deep dive onto this? Because I feel like we've had the same discussion before about Cleveland having a lead and then you looking to see if you can get in on the other side of it.
Yeah, I've looked at it in a couple teams. Detroit and Cleveland are the two teams that I've noticed at the most where they play really well during the beginning of the games, even up to the third quarter. And then they just kind of just defecate all over themselves right around the start of the fourth quarter, to where if they have any lead that's less than 10, it just seems they just give it up every time.
All right, fair enough. And again,
the live betting algorithm just don't take into consideration because if you have a 10-point dog, let's say a 10-point favorite who's down 6 or 7 after 3 quarters, it's going to be about pick 'em, which in this case, Utah's down 5 going into the 4 or 5 down in the fourth quarter. It'll be a pick 'em, which I'll take that all day long.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, that's the thing. They don't take motivation in when they're building their algorithms there. They just kind of go based on the numbers. So that's why we try to find some little edges and inconsistencies we can take advantage of. So, Frank, anything for you here, Utah, Cleveland?
Yeah, I've got under here. It does seem like Cleveland's playing faster and Utah's playing faster late. I just think that this number's getting a little bit too high. It looks like it's still going up a bit. It started at 219, 220 and a half. I have it at 217 or 217 and a half, a little bit more than that, around 218. So decent play here for me for the under. Like Paulie said, I just think this Cleveland team's going to give up. So I'm not going to get too discouraged when or if they get ahead or are playing well, because the second half could get pretty ugly for them.
All right, makes some sense there. Let's move on to the next game here. This is an interesting one that I think a lot of people are going to be using in daily fantasy. Memphis Grizzlies going on to take on the Atlanta Hawks. You talked about the Hawks playing faster right now. This is opened at 238.5 with the Hawks favored by 1. I'm seeing it up above 240 right now in a lot of spots. Westgate, MGM, William Hill, Circa Sports, like all these places have it over 240 already. So this total is definitely moving up. The spreads kind of stayed the same. You're seeing a lot of -1, -2, somewhere in there. We'll start with you on this one, Frank. What are you looking at in this Memphis-Atlanta game? And, kind of talk a little bit about that pace, because I know you mentioned it when you were mentioning the Magic before, too.
Yeah, I have this at 240, so I agree with that movement. It was just early this morning. It was like late last night, and then it looked like someone maybe faked it back, and then it came back up, earlier this morning. So 240 for me, I think that's about right. We talked about Atlanta picking up a bunch in pace and efficiency on offense, similar to what we're seeing with Orlando. But Memphis is bang on the same. So this Atlanta team, we've been playing overs for a while, and this is probably the first one we haven't played. So I think, books are starting to catch up a little bit. But Atlanta has sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, a couple injuries.
Atlanta is, over the last week or so, third in the NBA in pace, third in the NBA in offensive efficiency. The other thing to look at, too, is they have the least efficient defense in the NBA, according to my model, by quite a bit. So not only from a speed perspective, but from just a poor offensive effort or defensive effort and a really good offensive effort as of late. So the book finally kind of caught up here. So yeah, I'm not gonna play here. The only thing that I would look at, I think, is Memphis. I have Memphis as a half-point favorite here. So I think I would take the +2. I mean, you would expect eventually Atlanta to stop being one of the top 3 efficient offenses in the NBA. And the only thing I'm worried about from an injury perspective is Reddish, which isn't a big deal. So I kind of like Memphis here if I was forced to pick something.
Yeah, like I said, this is going to be a very highly used game for daily fantasy because I totally expect this game to be – I honestly even think it could go over that 240 total. We could see like a 125, 126 kind of final in this one. Paulie, what are you looking at here in this one? Anything from Memphis, Atlanta?
Yeah, I have a slight edge on Memphis here. I have it as a 1-point game for Memphis being favored, similar to Frank here. But I'm not going to play it pregame because when you have a game that is total for 240 points with 2 offenses that go up and down, you're going to see some, 12-2 runs. So it's going to be an opportunity for live betting to where if Memphis does get down around this game, I will be firing on Memphis because Memphis needs to motivate or has the motivation where they pretty much have to win any close game they possibly can if they want to make it the 8th seed in the playoffs because you have a couple teams, I think 3 teams chasing them that are a couple games behind, and they can't afford to lose, a game when they're playing the Atlanta Hawks pretty much.
So let me ask you a question. Now, again, obviously things happen in game, so I'm not asking for an exact number, but where would you start getting interested? What would you need to see? Memphis plus
if I'm getting,
or
Well, I actually would not be taking the spread in this case. I'd actually take the money line because I want to be incentivized and get the extra odds in there because Memphis isn't. If they lose by 2 or 20, it's the same for them, but they're gonna be doing everything they can to win. So I'd be looking to if I get the money line, in the high 100s, low 200s would be. I'd be ecstatic if I can get that somewhere in game. If they get you down, 7 or 8 points, you might be leading that at some point in the first half.
All right, so if we can catch a 170, 180, 200 on Memphis here sometime in game, that's when we're going to be looking to fire. So I'm making a little note of that for myself because I'm going to be watching that game later anyway. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. Milwaukee Bucks, Miami Heat. Bucks on the road favored by a couple points. I think it opened at 1.5. I see it going up to 3 here already. 226 total in this game. Big piece of injury news or maybe injury news on the Milwaukee side. Chris Middleton sat out this weekend. It looked to me from what they were saying before that last game on Saturday or Sunday, whenever that was, that it was more of a precautionary thing with his neck. So I'm assuming he's going to play today, but I did see he's still listed as questionable this morning. So, Paulie, we'll start with you on this one. Anything with that Milwaukee-Miami game that you're seeing?
No, I'm not touching either side in this game. To me, it seems like Middleton's going to be playing based upon the movement we see in the market there. It's just another one where, this time of year is a lot of live betting opportunities. If you happen to get a live line where Milwaukee is getting points, kind of hard not to take it considering the team has only lost, 8 or 9 games all year, right? And, sure, Miami has played well at home, but they're still a little banged up, and I don't necessarily trust them obviously as much as I would trust the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, they're missing 1 or 2 guys. I mean, Tyler Hero's still out. He's been out for a while here and, it's kind of shifted some guys around. Jimmy Butler should be in and playing here today, so that's obviously a big deal for them. Frank, anything on your side you're looking at here?
To me, it looks like the number looks like to me like Middleton's not going to play. With some understeam and some Miami steam here, Middleton is one of the better players in the NBA from an efficiency perspective. I do know that just from follow some folks from Milwaukee that complain about him a lot. He's quite good. I mean, especially for the position he plays good defense. He's pretty efficient offensively. The Bucks have a way though with dealing with these injuries that we've talked about in the past when Giannis has been in and out of getting by. They if you look at this team, I mean, from a bench perspective, they are so they're the deepest team in the NBA. I have my model has them as the best team in the NBA. Marv Williams is good. DiVincenzo is good. Wesley Matthews is good. Maybe the worst player on this team that gets minutes and it's under 20 minutes is maybe Sterling Brown. And he's not even he's above replacement level player, which is just so rare for an NBA team to have to be this deep. Giannis is nearly a +8 player. Middleton +3 player. Bledsoe's a +3 player. Lopez +3 player. George Hill's almost a +2 player. So they're so deep and good, and their bench guys can fill these roles pretty easily. Now I'm not saying that they're not missing anything with Middleton, but they tend to get by either way. I think this number could move if Middleton is in. I think this should be like 5 or 6, maybe, depending on what we expect from a minutes perspective for him, and some over money. But as this keeps getting steamed down and a little bit of steam in Miami, it looks to me like he's going to be out, but I'm not going to make a judgment on that because I don't know, what the situation might be there.
All right. So what are you seeing this game as now? Because like I said, I saw it last night. It was around like 1.5, 2, and now I'm seeing it at 3. So is that what you guys are seeing it at?
Well, I don't know where you were looking. It was 3.5. It looks like it just moved back. It was like 3.5, and then it went down to 3 everywhere, and it looks like maybe it's getting steamed back to 3.5 at Pinnacle.
Yeah, it's like 3.5 and 4 most places right now.
Yeah, I'm even seeing some
3.5. So okay, so it looks like my board's a little late as I'm looking at it now, but so maybe he is going to play. Now I see over steam. Now I see some Milwaukee steam. So like I said, I don't have any information here, but I wouldn't have a play on this regardless from model perspective. But if I put Middleton out, it seems to match the board a little bit better than if he's in. But like I said, they're really not losing that much.
Yeah. All right, so fair enough. So this is one of those games I think after all that discussion, I'm just going to be avoiding and staying away from. So let's move on to the next one here. We got Dallas and Chicago. This one is a little bit up in the air. I need you guys to kind of help me with some of the stuff that you're seeing on this game because I'm looking at Luka here listed as questionable. I'm looking at Porzingis listed as questionable. I'm looking at a whole bunch of these guys on the Bulls who we haven't seen in months starting to play. Wendell Carter came back last game. Lauri Markkanen was upgraded to doubtful, so still less likely to play, but I mean, still better than being out. And Otto Porter listed as questionable here today as well. A lot of moving parts to this one, Frank. Anything you can do with this? I mean, Dallas -3, 224.5 are the numbers I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider Dallas on the back-to-back as well, there's just too much here for me to be bothered with it. I mean, I don't know who's going to play, and obviously if Luka's in, it's going to change my number drastically. I lean to the under. If he's out, I lean under. I think the point spread is kind of indicating that at least Porzingis or Luka is going to play, but I really don't know. There's just too much going on here for me to get involved at all. Even just on one side with Dallas, because I don't know what pace they're going to run without him. With or without him, and if he's in, he's obviously a massively efficient player. So yeah, I'm just avoiding this at all costs.
Paulie, anything for you here, or are you kind of with the same mindset?
No, I had a couple players. I took Dallas for the game at -3, and then also took them first half for a -1.5. The best first half bet in all of the NBA this year. And then in terms of the game being at 3 points, if we go through all the different scenarios and kind of price out what it would be based upon who's playing, if for some reason that both Doncic and Porzingis are in, this number should be closer to 7.
Agree.
If they're both out, the number should be closer to about 2.5. So if they're out, we're pretty much at a coin flip situation. If one of them is in, we probably got about a 2.5 point edge. If they're both in, we got about a 4 to 4.5 point edge. So at this point, I'd be willing to roll the dice in the full game there. Dallas has played well even when they've had one or both those guys out this year. They got plenty of, supporting pieces that are good. Bulls have just not been playing well lately. They're still a disjointed team. And if for some reason that Porter and Markkanen come back, those guys are not going to be playing high minutes. They're going to be out of shape a little bit. And also in terms of meshing well with the team, I think it's going to mess up some of the rotations and some of the chemistry they've had too. So.
Yeah, I mean, for daily fantasy, I'll tell you guys, I'm staying completely away from this game because, you've been seeing those big minutes boost for a Kobe White and Satoransky playing tons of minutes. You start bringing back all these other guys that, Thad Young's going to lose minutes, all, White, Satoransky, all those guys we're talking about, they're all going to lose minutes. But Wendell Carter's a good example of what Paulie's talking about here. Is he did come back last game, but it's not like he came back and went into his 30-plus minute a game role. I think he played 18 minutes. So even if Porter comes back or Markkanen comes back today, they're all probably likely playing that same, 15 to 20 minutes here, which just kind of screws up the rotation, screws up the chemistry, screws up everything here. So you can't really factor in that, oh, well, they got their starters back. They're going to be better now. It kind of doesn't work that way in real life, like you think it should. All right, so let's go to the last game here. The last game is Indiana against San Antonio. Let me get the numbers here. We're looking at Indiana favored by about 1.5. Actually seeing that go up a little bit, 2.5 in a bunch of spots here. Total in this game, 220, 221 is what I'm seeing out there in the markets. Paulie, we'll start with you up top. Anything on Indiana, San Antonio? Oh, let me mention this too as well. LaMarcus Aldridge upgraded from doubtful to questionable. I don't know if he's going to play or not. It's obviously still an issue, but upgraded from doubtful to questionable at least means he's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I actually played Indiana overnight when it seemed like Aldridge was not going to be playing. So I actually played that game at Pick'em for Indiana, and the lines actually moved towards Indiana now, and that's even with the Aldridge news. So I knew I was on the right side at that point. But with Aldridge being questionable, this probably would not be a play for me at the current number because I'd have Indy favored by by a couple points, and it's just not really much value out there right now.
All right, Frank, anything for you here?
No, it's me. I got 220, and I also have Indiana by 2 with Aldridge out. Now, if he plays, might be 1, maybe 2 point difference. So I would have agreed with Paulie's play there, and I still don't think you got a bad number if he plays. Just not as you obviously would prefer him not to play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a really good value play.
But I think the number's definitely indicating that he's not going to play. But that being said, if he's just all of a sudden rolled in, then you're going to see movement back 100%. But it's nothing I'm interested in. Aldridge isn't huge to point spread, so I can kind of make a determination either way. And I would have played it at Pick'em almost for sure if that was available this morning. But it's just starting to open up in spots, so we'll see if once the limits come off, once the circle comes off, if it starts moving around a little bit.
All right, so there we go. That's all 7 of the games here tonight for NBA action. Remember, we try to have these guys on once or twice a week talking a little bit of NBA action, but you can get their plays every single day over at www.elitesportsbetting.com. Sign up for the VIP package. You not only get all their plays for NBA basketball, you get the NCAA basketball, you get Mad Labs MMA stuff, you get all the MLB action, MLB Dream crushing preseason are ready to start here. You get our fearless leader, Rob, MLB model, and all his baseball stuff throughout the season. You get all the football stuff, XFL stuff that's been going on. Guys like Mans and Tyler over there have been knocking that stuff down as well. And then you also get all the PGA stuff that these two guys are doing. So even if you don't go there and sign up today because you're still worried about it, go give a listen to their Up and Down podcast that they do tomorrow where they break down the PGA stuff every day. And you guys will probably be convinced after watching that because they've already hit a couple 30, 60, and what was the other one, like 100-1 winners this year already. So even if you lose for the rest of the PGA season right now, at this point you're playing with house money like I am, and there's really nothing to complain about there. So for Frank and Paulie, this is Benny signing off for another episode of The Opening Line at EliteSportsBetting.com.